実の4人終了です。過去に PBA の年間最優秀選手賞を獲得しております PBA タイトル18勝、さらには2014年の DHC カップ PBA ジャパンインビテーショナルを見事優勝しております。アメリカ・テキサス州からクリス・バーンズ。
Number 3 seniors also passed PBA Player of the Year with the 11 PBA Tour titles. From Montgomery, Illinois, give it up for Sean Rash.
そして3位通過をしましたこの選手も PBA 年間21勝を獲得しております。 PBA タイトル11勝、イリノイ州アメリカよりショーン・ラッシュ。
The number 2 seed has won PBA Tour title. He comes all the way from Cocoa, Florida. Please welcome Jason Sterner.
そして見事に通過をしました PBA タイトル1勝、ここで2勝目を狙います。アメリカ・フロリダ州からジェイソン・スターナー。
Our number 1 seed has to win only one game today to take home the title. He's the 2016 JPBA Tour point leader. He has 14 JPBA Tour titles, waiting for his first PBA title. From Nara, Japan, Shota Kawazoe.
そして本日のトップシードをご紹介いたします。2016年 JPBA 男子ツアー見事1位で通過しております。 JPBA タイトル14勝、そして本日1勝勝てば初の PBA タイトル獲得となります。奈良県からお越しの川添翔太。
Please, one more round of applause for our 5 Stepladder finalists.
それでは皆様、本日戦います5名の選手に大きなご声援をお送りください。
Bentencho Grandbowl in Osaka, Japan, the 2017 PBA DHC Japan Invitational. Phil Breiler here with you, alongside me, 4-time PBA Tour titleist and former Rookie of the Year, Rhino Page. Rhino, glad to have you in the booth for a Stepladder for the first time with us.
Phil, it's great to be here. This should be an exciting show.
It's going to be a very exciting show. We had some excitement in position round last night. Chris Barnes shooting 254 to hop 2 players to make it into this field. He's going to be in that opening match against EJ Tackett. Winner of that match moves on, going to be taking on Chris Barnes. And then with that match, afterwards, the man that you said can maybe make an influence on the entire Stepladder here, Jason Sterner.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason's thrown urethane all week long. The rest of the field in this show has thrown reactive. And one thing we know about urethane is it'll burn up the fronts and also drag the oil down the lane. So he can really influence the scoring pace for this particular show, as well as make guys scratch their head quite a bit.
And then, of course, our top seed, the man who dominated the last day of match play here, Shota Kawazoe. What a performance he's made. 5th place last year here at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. And with him being the top seed, it is wall-to-wall here inside of Bentencho Grandbowl with the fans.
Absolutely, and no lack of rev rate on this particular show either. Shota has a really, really heavy ball roll. He's getting his ball to read the mid lane really well. And I think that as far as players throwing reactive, he's the guy to beat. Obviously, he's in the top seed, but he can get his ball to read before that oil that is carried down the lane, and that's what's been his success all week.
Bentencho Grandbowl, 39 foot is the oil pattern that's out there for these players, and it was interesting to watch the players make adjustments early on. Little squirrely to start with, and we saw players making major moves, and a lot of times it wasn't inside on this pattern, was it?
No, there wasn't a lot of hold built up in this pattern, even though it shows like there's a lot of oil in the middle of the lane. You didn't have that miss room to the inside of the lane. You really had to keep your angles tighter, use your speed, use your ball roll, and also use your equipment to ball down and ball up when needed.
Practice finishing up between Chris Barnes and EJ Tackett. Winner of this match will move on to take on Sean Rash.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what EJ does in this particular game. Obviously, you saw this week he bowled 300 games, and he really took advantage of the good pairs, but the bad pairs beat him up a little bit, and that's why he's in the 5th seed.
And I think we're going to be ready to start here. Let's get the announcements from the PBA and Japan Bowling Promotions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Barnes, the higher seed, is elected to start this match. Please, a round of applause to start off match 1 of the 2017 DHC PBA Japan Invitational.
第1回戦、クリス・バーンズ対 EJ タケット。クリス・バーンズが4位通過となりましたので、このゲームを始めるという選択をいたしましたので、先行の開始となります。それでは DHC カップ PBA ジャパンインビテーショナル2017決勝ステップラダー1回戦、皆様のご声援いただきましてスタートいたします。
And the announcements are made, and match 1 to get underway here. Phil Brylo, Rhino Page with you in the booth. Jeff Goodger driving half the show. The other half, you see a lot of the pictures coming in from us from our friends at Japan Bowling Promotions. And Barnes, winner of this event 2 years ago. And a little deeper than I thought Barnes would be this early on the pattern.
A little bit deeper. You know, these first couple matches is going to be interesting because they had 20 minutes of warm-up. This particular pattern played similar to a house shot in the fact that it was very wet-dry. And these guys all played the outside part of the lane during that practice. So they're going to be a little bit cliffed here at the beginning. And I like Barnes in this first match because he can manipulate it with his ball roll so good.
Tackett, first frame. And you can see why EJ had 3 300 games during the match play rounds this week, 2 of them on match play round 2.
He's got such an incredible amount of power that, you know, he hits that pocket. It very much looks like a two-hander, throwing pins all over the place.
You know, and it's funny, and you mentioned earlier in the week he tried to hook it the first 3 games of this tournament, and he realized it's got to be firm and straight. And even though he's using very super tame reactive balls, it's still amazing how many boards that ball is covering for as flat-handed as he's coming out of it as compared to normal.
And what a great shot to open up this match.
Watch the replay here. On lane 25 inside of Bentencho Grandbowl, 10 back. And the key this week is digging out the 10 for the righties. If you can find an angle and consistently bring that 10 down, you're going to shoot some scores. We saw a lot of frustration for players that can get to the pocket 10 times a game and only get the ball out. Only get the 10 out half the time.
And this is one of those guys that faced those frustrations quite a bit this week. I mean, he hit the hole all week long, but took him a while to figure out exactly what he needed to do ball roll-wise to get that 10 out.
Yeah, watch the 6-pin, a little low around the 10. And it was funny, before position round, he called himself Santa Claus. He goes, I gave away so many matches this week. I was like Santa Claus. And he shot the 254, and I looked at him when he was done, and I said, way to go, Grinch. And I actually got a little smile out of Chris after the match. So, but that was a tough part this week. There were a lot of matches where one 10-pin made the difference somewhere in the game.
Absolutely, and one of the things that they really have to pay attention to is the racks. These racks are a little bit inconsistent. And, you know, I know I took a lot of re-racks this week because of that. You just knew you were going to leave a 7-pin, you know, if I didn't.
Barnes just named his 15th time on Team USA and bounces back with another strike. All 5 of these players in the step ladder averaging over 237 this week. So the strikes were there to be had. Just a matter of you had to make sure the angles are correct.
Absolutely, and you also had to make sure your moves were right pair to pair. As you went to the higher side of this bowling center, they got tighter and tighter and tighter. And it took a while to figure that out.
Yeah, and that 6 does nothing when it hits the flat gutter. Josh Blanchard remarked, he goes, these flat gutters look real deep this week before we started the practice session, and he found that a few times, no doubt.
And you can see that ball there did not pick up in that mid lane. It went straight through it, and that's really what's going to cause these carry issues. It's a guy that gets to see the right part of the lane in that mid lane is going to strike a lot more.
And one part earlier in the week, a lot of players are mentioning about how much the fronts were hooking as well. So here you got the fronts hooking, you got the mids getting tight, and then you got the back ends playing the transition there. That was the riddle to solve, wasn't it?
It really was.
And it wasn't an easy riddle for some of the players, and even yourself. It took a few games to figure out where you need to be, and you had a great charge throughout the rest of the event after that first block. I think you were the man that made the biggest move the last 3 rounds, and once again, 6 does nothing on the 10.
Yeah, I was fortunate they had a urethane ball for me to drill here. I went through all of my options in those first 5 games with reactive, and I just could not get my ball to see it the right way. And so for the first time in my PBA career, I went to a plastic ball the last 3 games of that first block and stood on top of that pattern so I didn't have to keep my angles so open. Which is exactly what you're seeing these guys do. They're keeping those angles more shut down than you would normally think on a house-type shot.
Yeah.
But this oil they have on the lane is extremely thick. And in fact, you saw a lot of times this week, a lot of bowling balls come back. They look glazed over like a donut.
Barnes, 4th frame. 10-pin last time on this lane.
Oh. And that is something we saw a lot this week. That stone 8, it was really, really bizarre. I bowled next to Jason Sterner most of the week. He was my crossing partner, and he must have left 15 stone 8s. It was incredible.
And it wasn't the racks necessarily. It's just the way the ball seems to enter the pocket, where all of a sudden it hits the 1-3 and the ball starts to deflect a little bit, and the ball really went flat in a hurry, it seemed like.
Right. It's a little bit of ball roll, and sometimes it is the rack, but it's the 5-pin. And it's really hard to see that 5-pin because it's tucked away behind the 1. So if you're not really paying attention to that detail, it's easy to leave those.
Chris Barnes' last title here in Japan in 2015, when not only did he win the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, but also threw a 300 game in the semifinal match. And there is a yen million award for 300 during this show from Japan Bowling Promotion. You get thrown to the ground by the 8-pin, and then it kicks you while you're down with the 4-9.
And you can see that ball just start to read a little bit too quick. That's the fronts burning up a little bit. And unfortunate not to get the 4-9 right there.
And you can adjust off the 8-pin, but I'm sure Chris will make some type of adjustment off that 4-9.
Yeah, and the adjustments this week were a little bit different than what we're used to on the tour. You know, we bowl on much tougher conditions. And so it's all about keeping your angles right and moving more like 2-1s, 3-2s, you know, that type of stuff. Whereas this particular week, you could actually just move 1-0, 2-0, and then back and forth and back and forth.
What an incredible effort by Barnes on that 4-9. Over slices the 4. Lands a couple inches in front of the 9. And that puts Barnes down early. Let's see if EJ can put the pedal down. The double in the 5th and 6th.
You could see that ball read the mid lane a lot better than the shot prior to on that lane.
Yeah,
Looked like EJ gave that a little bit more. It's amazing, this kid's versatility. You know, a lot of people stereotype him into just being that typical power player. I stand left, I throw right, but EJ is much better than that. But he likes to play it like, oh yeah, I'm dumb. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, when you watch this weekend, if you see him off enough, you go, he's taking a little off the ball this week a lot of times. But to the casual viewer, they may not pick it up, and he's just like, I'm just doing my thing.
Right.
And I think the win at the PBA World Championship is giving EJ a little more confidence in situations such as here.
Absolutely.
Under the TV lights, big crowd here in Bentencho Grandbowl. And EJ with a lot to prove, and nothing better to kick off 2017 than with a PBA title. you knew that was going to get some reaction from Chris after the 8-pin. Watch the replay as the ball splits the 8 and the 9.
That's picture perfect right there. And that's one of those things. You stone the 8-pin. What do? You can't move.
Yeah.
You just got to throw it good again and take your chances. And that's one of the things about bowling. It's round objects hitting round objects. You never know what you're going to get sometimes.
Looked a little left. Held flush pocket, though. But as you mentioned, Rhino, pattern this week was a little different than what you guys see week in, week out on the PBA Tour. And every once in a while, if somebody built up some push area, you'd had to get there. There was no built-in push. Players had to make their own push.
Absolutely. And you're going to see these players move further and further left, unlike what we saw all week long, just because of that 20 minutes of warm-up, and they're all playing on top of the pattern. So you're going to see them get a little bit wet dry potentially in these first couple games, much like what you saw with Barnes on that left lane, leaving that 4-9.
3 in a row for Tackett. Let's watch the replay. And one would think for a 39-foot pattern, you hear sometimes the old rule of 31, which 31 minus from the 39-foot pattern would be 8th board for the break point. And it doesn't seem like EJ was out that far on that shot.
Yeah, I always caution people with the rule of 31 because it doesn't take into consideration volume of oil, surface that you're bowling on, as well as the traffic. So you got to be real careful with that.
Looking for 4 in a row. Dead flush.
Amazing to see such a young player look so calm on TV. He's throwing it great right now. See a lot of times with these young players, they're fearless because they don't really know. They're just getting in and they don't think too much. You know, they just go out there and bowl. And now EJ not only does that, but now he's got the confidence on the telecast. Boy, that's a scary combination.
Yeah, I mean, 2 wins in the last 3 months of the PBA Tour, one of those being a major.
This kid's going to win a lot out here.
Barnes 3 in a row on his own, but he is down by 29 with just 2 frames remaining. It will take help from Tackett for Barnes to get any chance of thinking of advancing to match 2.
And as good as EJ's throwing it, I think the only help he could potentially get is one of those blower 7-10 type hits. But EJ's ball's going through the pin so good right now, I just don't see that happening.
Barnes maximum 237. Oh. And that is going to be a tough one for Barnes to take.
And he threw such a good shot there. That's the most frustrating thing. You throw such a good shot on this particular oil pattern, and you don't always get what you deserve.
That 6-pin high around the 10. Nothing weak about that ball for Barnes. I think Chris may be talking to that shot until he's up in his 10th frame. Chris loves bowling here in Japan, and being a previous title holder, you know it means that little bit more when you get another chance to win. And now that chance has gone away for Barnes.
Still a great week just to make this show. You know, he went through a lot of persevering. Nothing to hang your head about. As you've seen all week, though, Phil, I mean, it comes down to who gets the carry, who gets the breaks. And, you know, EJ had a little bit of a struggle there in the 3rd and 4th frame. said, don't worry about it. Let's just throw it better. And it's hard to beat that.
Yep, no doubt. So you're EJ Tackett. You know you're taking on Sean Rash in the next match. You know you got to sit by the side while Sean's going to get his practice balls here on 25 and 26. You personally, what would be your mindset on TV between matches? What do you do to keep yourself fresh and keep yourself focused getting into that next game?
I think the key is just staying loose. It's easy to get a little bit tight in between commercial breaks or in between those matches. So just stay loose, stay calm. I mean, you know, it looks he's very calm right now. You can see it in his face. Very loose. And that's really what you want to do. Maybe go tell a joke to your buddies or something.
Yeah, I don't think Chris appreciated that joke right there. Chris kind of got up and turned away and covered his mouth. EJ Tackett 2:57 in the opening match. He'll be moving on to take on Sean Rash. And really the difference maker in this match, the 4th and 5th frame for Barnes with another solid 8. Oh. Didn't quite. It's something about being on TV that he just made a quote. I didn't even hear the whole thing.
That's a tough pill to swallow right there. Not 1 stone 8, but 2 stone 8s. I saw Jason Sterner do that earlier in the week. He started front 5, stone an 8 pin, and you're like, ouch. And then he struck, and then he stoned another 8 pin. And then he struck again, and then he wrapped a 10 and lost the match.
Oh,
so
yeah, painful.
Again, this is it comes down to breaks and carry right now.
Still not a bad payday for Barnes. $7,830 for 5th place. Winner of this event taking home $43,500.
Chris Barnes, 257 to 205. Please, one more round of applause for Chris Barnes. Coming up next, the number 3 seed, Sean Rash.
So Sean Rash will get 4 practice balls, I believe, on each lane. And he will have lane choice as the higher seed. Do you always wait to see what the lanes are playing like, Rhino, before you decide when you're coming onto a match like this, like Sean is, whether you want to start first or start second?
I'll pay attention to the match prior and see if there's a lane that has bugged my opponent a little bit. If there isn't, then I'll just kind of feel it out and see which lane I like better. I don't really think so much about finishing the match so I can put the pressure on or anything, because these guys, they're all veterans out here. You know, they're used to bowling in this environment.
Sure. So we'll let Sean take his practice balls. Phil Brylow and PBA Tour champion Randall Page in the booth with you. I'll be back with our match number 2, Sean Rash, EJ Tackett, after this practice is complete. Start, Sean. You have 2 more shots. But I'd like to start. Okay. Put it back. EJ, you'll start. One more shot. EJ's up.
Rash, the higher seed, is elected to let EJ Tackett start the match.
And
第2試合の方はショータ選手の方が3シードということで後攻を選択しまして EJ タケットが25番でスタートとなります。それでは2回戦スタートいたします。皆様ご声援をお願いします。
And with the announcements, we are now underway with our match number 2 of the Stepladder Final DHC PBA Japan Invitational, the 2017 edition. Phil Brylow and PBA Tour champion Rhino Page in the booth. And EJ Tackett starting off on the left lane. And he left one of those in the 11th frame. EJ just kind of sat by and watched Sean throw during practice.
Must be nice to be young like that. I'm at that age where if I sit down the whole time during that warm-up, I'm going to be so tight. I'm going to be lucky to get to the foul line.
As we see the replay of EJ's 10-pin.
It looks to be like there's a little bit of oil starting to get down the lane on that left lane there. You can see his ball look like it wanted to hook and then kind of back up there at the pin deck.
Sean was going back and forth between 2 balls on this right lane during practice. It looks like he's going to be using the same ball on the left and right lanes.
And one thing you're going to see Sean do in this particular match is he's really going to use the fronts to his advantage. You can see his ball start to redirect at about 15 feet, and that was the key this week. The guys that had that early friction and the ball left the line because of their ball roll or whatever it might have been were the ones that really struggled. They go through the face and split every time. That's why you saw a lot of guys throw the urethane this week. Playing the fronts and manipulating that was key.
Looking for a double to open the match. He hasn't missed yet. Every shot in practice was looking just like that one right there.
Yeah, and I watched him bowl that 20 minutes of warm-up before the show, and it looked like he didn't have a very good ball reaction, but he might have just been setting him up.
I think that's one thing the casual viewer of the PBA doesn't quite realize is that you guys have such speed, rev rates, talent. You can manipulate the lane pattern and let it respond to you instead of you responding to the lane pattern.
That's one of the big keys of being successful out here on tour. If you're a one-trick pony, yeah, you'll have your good weeks, but you're going to struggle a lot in those other weeks. And right now, you know, it's not like the old tour of 20 weeks, 30 weeks. You got to be sharp, and you have to be sharp with multiple things. And you're seeing that with EJ, with his rev rate and his ball roll. He's changed that a lot this week. He's very good at that. And same with Sean. He's the veteran now.
And back to back 10 pins on the left lane.
And he's going to have to make a move on that lane. Whether it's moving a little bit more in and softening up on the speed, maybe he's going to get around it, just pinch more and throw it a little more firm. Use some of that rev rate to his advantage, but he's going to have to try something to get that 10 out.
Yeah, saw him right before Game 7 started yesterday in the match play round 4, and he had said he had left 17 10 pins his first 6 games of that block. I don't think he left 17 10 pins 2 blocks before that. He left it in the first 6 games in that block. They seem to come in bunches here at Bentencho Grandbowl. You go a long time without leaving some corners, and all of a sudden there's 2, 3, 4 in a row.
I don't know what you're talking about. I had 83 single pins this week.
Rash for the front 3. Jeez. Well,
that looks tough to beat right there.
When you're splitting the 8-9 on every shot, that's a thing of beauty. Using a good 8 to 9 foot aloft to help combat some of the early friction on the front of the lane, it looks like.
Loft is a tool that I encourage everybody to work on and put into their game, because it's a tool that's so underused. And again, manipulating the front part of the lane and the middle part of the lane is the most important thing. If you're relying on the friction down the lane to make your ball hook, you're fighting a downhill battle.
I'll tell you what. Sean Rash is finding no hills right now. It's some smooth as glass sailing for him the first 4 frames.
And just to go a step further on that, if you're playing the back end of the lane, understand that the part of the lane that changes the most and the fastest is the back of the pattern, because that oil continues to get dragged down the lane. You don't see it as much as you did 10 years ago because of the technology of the bowling balls, and they continue to flare, right? So the ball's always got a fresh surface when it's touching the lane. However, you get the lower flaring balls, and they'll really drag it down. And this particular oil, as we spoke about earlier, is so thick. It just, we saw the back part of the lane really change quick this week.
Well, you mentioned Sterner throwing urethane. That would have more effect on pushing oil down the lane than these resin balls. Is that something that's going to change for Jason when he comes on for his next match? Are these guys kind of taking some of what he's built up away with resin, or?
Well, I think what you saw this week with guys that threw the urethane is it allowed them to play on top of the pattern and use that friction on the outside part of the lane to their advantage. I know certainly for myself, that helped me a lot. I struggled with that wet-dry, throwing reactive balls. So I don't think it's going to play too much of a factor for Jason. He didn't make that big of moves this week outside of just the moves you had to make pair to pair.
Rash can improve his lead back to 30 pins. He gets number 5. You could lay down every shot you see on that low shot given to us by Japan Bowling Promotions. You could lay down all 3 of those shots he's made on the right lane, and I don't think you could tell the difference on any one of those.
If I didn't know any better, I thought you guys were just putting this on replay.
See Tackett hanging loose in the back. You see him shaking the head, keeping the neck loose a little bit, but he knows his work's cut out for him, especially if Sean can get the front half completed right here.
And it's not time to panic yet. EJ can still bowl 270, so he's only really down 1 hit plus count.
And we've seen blower 710s pop up at bad opportunities for players. Ooh. And the break with the 2-pin coming off the board to take out the solid 8.
I hope Barnes wasn't watching that hit. That might have made him shake his head even more.
Yeah, 2-pin off the sideboard into the 8. You don't see that very often with the way the pins move here at Bentencho Grandbowl. Usually that 8 was standing there with nothing around it. Tackett keeping it close.
And no problems on that right lane. I wonder if Sean's sitting there shaking his head like, why did I let him finish on that lane?
Well, Sean will have the chance to make that point moot in the 10th frame if he maintains a lead. 7th frame, Tackett down by 30, can knock it down to 20. He really flattened out that back end angle, it looked like, Rhino.
It looked like he made a little bit of a move left. Not a big one, but a little one. And it seemed to me that he boomed on that one a little bit more, but still kept his ball roll more forward than what we're used to seeing him do. Again, that was the key this week. Guys that had higher axis rotations, it didn't look too good. So easy to get that ball to go blow right through the pattern.
Looking for the first 7, asking for some help in the smash 7.
I was surprised he got that ball to the pocket. It looked like it was in all the way. A horrible break.
Yeah, he's asking for help. He sees it, and the 4 just goes up and around. Well, keep the composure. You're still up by 19. And he can end it before EJ even has a chance to step up in the 10th frame. Tackett's maximum 270, Rash maximum 279.
You got a ball game now.
Lots of that happened. 32 games of match play here this week at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, and a lot of matches that were decided by that one break that didn't go a bowler's way, or they caught a break.
And bonus pins so crucial in this particular format. And saw that ball blow right through the pattern, and again, you know, if you're not getting your ball to read that mid lane, you're going to leave a 10 pin more times than not.
Yeah, I mean, you watch that ball almost go through the 9 pin spot. It had a bit of a deflection on it. Definite ball game now, and Tackett can take the lead if he puts up strikes in the 8th and 9th.
Yeah, and just like that, EJ in the driver's seat.
Quite a few matches this week where 260 wasn't enough. Remember one match with Sterner and Josh Blanchard on this pair. Sterner took 269, 266. And that's why you never say die, ladies and gentlemen, right there. Even with the 2 10 pins, the first 3 frames for Tackett, finds himself with a chance to take the lead. I think Squirrel is found his nut right now.
This is the key shot right here. Get off this left lane, make a good pitch, and make Sean make you show up in the 10th frame.
Just pure.
I don't think you can throw it better than that. Great shot.
And that puts Tackett in the lead for the first time this game. 2 pins the advantage for Tackett. Little left.
Oh boy.
Should be happy. It's just a 3 pin.
And really, that's what I was expecting his ball to do in the prior frame on that lane. And it looks like, you know, again, this week we didn't have a lot of hold built into the pattern. So you had to have your misses to the outside, which is a little bit different than what we're used to on tour. I mean, the right-handers do that a lot later in a block. But especially on my side of the lane, you got to look for your room in because our patterns are a lot more flat.
Did he miss transition there, or was it a bad shot?
I think it was a bad shot. Both of them on that lane, his last 2 shots looked in. And you could see off his hand he wasn't too happy.
Maximum score for Rash, 257. Sean punches out. It's going to force EJ to get the first one in the 10th. Assuming decent count out of Rash.
Yeah, and right now, if you're Sean, you just want to make a couple good pitches here. You never know. You know, ring 10s are always around the corner here.
And the extra look on lane 25. And didn't seem 100% confident. You saw him kind of walk it to the right, and once it started getting through the pocket, he knew, and you saw the fist pump there.
Yeah, I think it's one of those shots where, okay, thank you. Now I got to make a move off of that and not be complacent and say, oh yeah, well it struck, I shouldn't move. The ball read the lane a little bit too quick.
Sean taking the second re-rack in the 10th frame of his 2 allowable in each game. And sure, it's just actually make sure the pins are on spot.
Or the veteran move to just calm yourself, take a little more time.
Make your opponent take a little more time.
That too. Although EJ's so young, I don't think it matters.
6 gets to the 10.
Never know.
And that's going to force EJ Tackett to throw the first strike in the 10th. That's the one thing about the scoring system of bowling. It rewards strikes in a row. EJ Tackett is going to have a longer string than Sean Rash if he gets that first one in the 10th. That'll be the difference maker in the game. Not going to hurt him too bad right there. So if Tackett goes strike 9, he's a winner. But the first one, a necessity for EJ. Six to the line, 10 in the pit.
What a great shot. He looks like a veteran. How long has he been out here?
There's not a shake in his swing. There's not a shake while he's on the approach. He's just like, yeah, I'm here. Let's do it, man. He's got a little ice water going through the veins right now.
My goodness. Bowling on pure confidence.
Well, when you're in your second consecutive TV final. And how about that? The 8's still rocking. That's 3 on that lane. So now, is it the lane or is it just
it's the rack?
Bad luck? It's
I'm
the
going to
rack.
go with the
Okay.
rack now because that's 3.
You just watch the rock and roll right there, and but that's more than enough because that gets, even with a miss, 258 for Tackett. Sean Rash going home with $8,700, and EJ Tackett moves on to face Jason Sterner.
Defeats Sean Rash 259 to 256. Please, one more round of applause for Sean Rash.
And the key to that win for EJ Tackett in match 2, figuring out that left lane after a couple of 10 pins, the first and third frames.
Yeah, and if you're going to miss early. That's what I always tell people. You can still bolt 290 if you miss in the first frame and get your spare.
So
Our next match will feature Jason Sterner versus EJ Tackett. But first, 4 practice shots by tournament leader Shota Kawazoe.
And
ですが、ジェイソン・スカルナー選手対 EJ タケット選手になりますが、ここで1シードの川添翔太選手に4球の練習ボールが与えられておりますので、4球の練習ボールの後にジェイソン・スカルナー選手の練習ボールが与えます。
We saw Jason Sterner there talking to Sean Rash, Rhino, and what Sean saw on the lanes, obviously they're teammates with their ball company, and Sterner using urethane equipment, Rash was using resin. Can what Rash saw as transition work for Sterner as well? Like he's saying, okay, I did this move. Can Jason take that and put it in his own equation using urethane?
Yeah, absolutely. Data is always good to have. And I know I talked to Sterner before this telecast, and he said, I'm going to stick with my A game, what got me here, and that was throwing a urethane ball. But he was also experimenting with a couple reactive balls in case that might look better. And right now it does look like that reactive might be the better play for him.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see as Rash and Sterner still talking as they watch Kawazoe take his 4 practice balls allowed before the semifinal match, and then Sterner will get his practice. Should be interesting, so we'll let these bowlers get their practice in. Our semifinal match coming up, number 5 seed EJ Tackett against our 2nd seed Jason Sterner. Phil Brylo and Rhino Page here with you from Bentencho Grandbowl in Osaka.
I know you probably know, but no pressure. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Sterner, the higher seed, has elected to let EJ Tackett begin the match.
それでは第3試合ですが、ジェイソン・スターナー選手が後攻ということになりましたので、25番でスタート、EJ タケット選手のスタートとなります。それでは3回戦スタートいたします。
And with the announcements, we are ready to get underway with our semifinal match in the 2017 DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Phil Brillo and PBA Tour titleist Rhino Page in the booth with you, EJ Tackett. This one is first two matches, ready for match 3.
There's that tricky left lane. That's going to be one of the keys to this match for both players.
Now, EJ had to sit and watch both Sterner and Kawazoe practice. And Kawazoe throwing resin, Sterner throwing urethane. Could that combination have made EJ guess wrong?
It might have been it just sitting there that long, tightening up a little bit.
Okay.
You know, maybe getting a little bit soft on that shot because we haven't seen EJ come close to missing the pocket yet in the first two matches. Let's get those legs back loosened up.
Here's the man they call Flash. 1-300 game for Sterner this week in the opening game of round 3 of match play. And that's the best looking pinfall he's had with all those balls he had in practice. A lot of wall shots.
A couple wall shots, a couple 4 pins. But again, he's thrown urethane all week long. He knows those moves, and he's very good at manipulating things. He's one of the hardest workers we have out here on tour. I mean, this guy's in the bowling center for a couple hours almost every day.
You may mention earlier in the week that when he got a little fast, he'd miss left, and it would really mess with his ball reaction. And he said he'd end up going past the head pin a little bit. Doesn't go past the head pin on that shot, right on top of it.
You could see that thing hook immediately. One thing with throwing urethane, you have to do it a lot differently than reactive, right? You got to play the front part of the lane, but sometimes it overhooks in that front, and much like you saw there, the split comes. So you got to be really careful. And it's easy to make a move off of that and watch your ball not hook. Again, you know, they're very wet dry.
The open frame for Sterner has him down 12 early. Tackett took the opening match from Chris Barnes, 257, 205. I think Barnes will be having nightmares about 8 pins in his sleep this evening. Similar start to his second game against Sean Rash, which he took 259, 256, 10 with Aaron shot on the left lane and all 10 down on the right.
I'll tell you what, he's lucky to get that 10 pin out there. I don't know if you saw his ball go through the pins, but it just never really got to that roll phase. And whether or not that's Sterner's urethane starting to drag that oil down the lane, or maybe a little too firm based off that first frame, scared to go high, we'll find out.
Move left there. Is that what?
You know, it looked like his ball speed just was a little more firm.
Okay.
And like you said earlier in the show here, guys didn't really get way left this week. That wasn't always the move. It was more with speed, ball, and roll.
Sterner working on an open third frame. And week 10.
That's what I call the urethane hit. Very easy to week 10.
And you saw the ball start to roll early on that low-level shot, and it just kind of twirled out. It looked like it twirled out at the end, basically, the way to say it. Lots of deflection once it got into the 1-3, and when you see your ball passing through the middle of the 9-pin spot, usually not a good thing.
Not at all. I'm used to it, though. So. The 8-pin, though, of course.
Spare for Sterner. Has him down 22.
More so than anything, though, that might have been one of those auto corrects where You know, he saw it go through the face of frame before, so he's going to make sure he gives it more speed, but that's not the lane to give it more speed on. But naturally, your body wants to do that sometimes.
Big chunk of change you guarantee yourself if you make it out of this match. 21,750 for second, 11,310 for third. That's a lot of yen to take home. And I think he's officially in trouble.
Yeah, that urethane is just not looking like it has all week. And that was the move right there. You know, you have to be careful. You make 2 boards, let's just say, for example, off of that first shot on that lane, and your ball never hooks. It's not like a reactive ball where it's going to hook down lane.
Does he go back in the bag, or does he keep trying to use what got him here?
That's a question only he could answer. You know, I gotta say he's going to stick with that and try to manipulate it. He hasn't thrown a reactive ball all week.
Tackett working on a double. Get the lead out to 36 here. Looking for 3 in a row. Looked like watching EJ's follow through on a couple of these shots. Seems like the hand's coming more almost over the top by the time he's done the follow through than we normally see EJ. You usually see the open hand and up, and it seems to be more on the side right now.
Right. Well, he's started to move left, and as he moves left, he's got to get a little more axis rotation to get that ball to kick a little bit harder.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to have flat 10 central. If that's in EJ's vocabulary, anyways, I'm not sure.
Fifth frame. Wrap 10.
And he liked that. It's a good shot.
Six never made contact with the flat cutter on that one.
Yeah, and watching his ball roll on that particular shot, his ball did all the right things. That could be something as simple as, you know, one pin being a little bit off spot. But
just gets the spare.
In the driver's seat, nonetheless.
35 the lead for EJ Tackett. Sterner 1 strike to start the match. Nothing but trouble since.
Now, Phil, we talked a little bit about adding that tool of loft to your game. Loft is a great tool to have with urethane. Let's see if you might try to manipulate the fronts with that.
As the 6 is timed at Mach 3.2 around the 10 pin. Is that ball just energy retention is a problem with urethane, isn't it?
Yeah. Looks like he's trying to use a tool of speed and just throw it harder and harder. Unfortunately, not getting the proper angle for the pins.
Everybody thinks that bowling is a finite sport sometimes, but the combinations that you have to put together with the ball and the speed and the axis rotation and the loft, it's a game of infinite combinations.
This might be one of the most complex sports in the world, and it really doesn't get credited for that, but you're exactly right. That's why at the end of a long week, you're more mentally exhausted than you are physically exhausted. Putting those pieces of the puzzle together constantly over 9 hours a day, that'll wear you out.
Man, lots of bowling here this week in the 2017 DHC PBA Japan Invitational. 16 games each of 2 days, Thursday and Friday, to get to this show Saturday in Japan, back-to-back ring 10s, and it is not looking good for an outlook for Mr. Sterner.
Not at all, and he's at the point of no return. You know, if he was going to make a change, 5th frame is the time to do it. It's still early in the match, but now you're 6 frames in, 7 frames in, and you can't just, you know, abort mission and go to reactive.
Well, the good news for Sterner, if there is any good news, is that his maximum score right now is 222. Tackett gets a couple single pins in there himself. He could let Sterner back in the match. But when EJ's been getting strikes, they seem to be coming in large strings.
They always do with him. And the other thing EJ has going for him as well is he's up in count. Sterner with that 6 count, that really hurt.
Great toss there by Tackett, has him up by 37, looking to go to 47. The double on the board in the 7th. Only 1 strike for Tackett so far in 3 attempts on this lane this game. Make that 1 for 4.
Phil, I'm surprised that again Sterner didn't make EJ finish on this left lane. It's been the problem for every player so far.
I'm sure Kawazoe is noting that as he's looking on from the side. I don't hear any practice going on in the center for Shota. So I'm sure he's out there keeping an eye on the. Oh, and of course, as soon as I say that, there's a warm-up shot. No, you don't want to say must strike for Sterner, but
Absolutely
pretty much is
mandatory. Shot there. That's the Sterner I watched all week.
Seemed a little more direct. Like maybe did he possibly move right?
That was the move this week. If you were going to move, you were going to move more towards the friction and use more ball speed.
Sterner is going to definitely make sure that oil comes off that ball. He's all those pads that are out there nowadays, players can use to really accentuate oil removal better than a towel, and he's making sure with urethane that's being done.
Whoever created the chamois, I want to shake their hand.
Eighth frame for Sterner, looking for double. Insta high. That ball was left when it hit the lane. It just sparked.
Yeah, I don't know if Jason has enough ball speed to get it through that spot. That's again where I talked about loft. That's one of my favorite tools to use with these urethane balls because you have to stay in the friction. That's what's going to make that ball hook. But sometimes it's too much friction in the front, and using loft to blow it over the top of it is key.
As our friends at Japan Bowling Promotion go back to the replay of Sterner's 4-pin. And Tackett can end this match by the 9th frame if he can put up 2 more strikes here in the 8th and 9th. 47 his advantage currently. Make it 46 with a conversion. So when does he try another piece for EJ? With the corners making an appearance 3 of the last 4 shots.
10th frame, perhaps. Just fill these 2 frames, lock it up, and then you can go to something else. And I think this is, you know, Jason's throwing urethane. It's going to change the lane, and you're starting to see that directly affect EJ. Really hard to get your ball to shape properly through the pins when that oil gets dragged all the way down the lane.
This, assuming EJ holds on to the lead in the match, does that give EJ the advantage going against Shota in the last game because he's seen the transition Sterner created and Shota hasn't?
Maybe a little advantage, but I think more so than anything, it's going to be who makes the best shots is going to win this title. They're both playing on a level playing field.
46 the lead for Tackett, with Sterner stepping up in the 9th. Sterner's maximum score 202. And Tackett basically just needs to get count in the 10th frame if Sterner strikes out. You just watch the ball. It looked like a start, a stop, a start, a stop, kind of on that low-level shot.
It's a much different ball reaction than we're used to with today's equipment. That's for sure. And I tell people all the time, you can't just bowl normal with those balls. You have to make them shape. You have to make them hook in the different spots. That's why I try to avoid throwing urethane if I can these days, because it's very hard on my body and on my wrist.
You can't soft-hand urethane, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. You can't just tumble it and throw it normal. And in fact, because I threw urethane all week, when I woke up this morning, man, I felt like I was 60 years old. A little bit sore.
The PDW breakfast, 8 Advil and a glass of milk.
My thought was, I need to get back to the gym.
10 out for Sterner, but not going to be enough. Taking home $11,310 for his third-place finish. That's not a bad way to kick off 2017. It's not a win, but it's a nice check to go back home with and know with the big stretch of 3 majors coming up in February. It's a little cushion.
Absolutely. And he has nothing to hang his head about. He's bowled so good this week. One thing that I was watching and I noticed was he was so good mentally. Never any ups, never any downs. It reminded me a lot of Francois.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually came over after he shot his 300, and he was coming near the extra frame pairs, and he stopped in the booth and talked to us between games. So he knew he was in that state of mind where just everything's relaxed, good, everything's going well, and I'm going to keep throwing it good. And he did it for 32 games this week, and unfortunately the 33rd game got him here. Sterner, one of the 4 players that shot 300 this week. Choi Won-young out of Korea, Tommy Jones and Jason Sterner having 3 of those, EJ Tackett having the other 3. So EJ gets half of the 100,000 yen 300 game pot, while the other 3 players split the remaining half. And there's still the $1,000,000 yen prize if someone were to shoot a 300 in the final match between Kawazoe and Tackett.
I think it's safe to say EJ won the skins game this week. There's your ball change. You see that ball continue a lot better.
And it's funny because we've seen EJ not be afraid to throw urethane. When he won his Xtra Frame Tour title in Carpentersville last April, he threw on Cheetah most of the day. He threw urethane until switching to resin for the last match. And interesting to see that EJ stayed with the resin piece. Keep going. He was obviously, with what he saw from Sterner, the choice to urethane was not going to enter his mind.
Right. And as much as EJ was striking, not needed.
Jason Sterner, 235 to 191. Please, one more round of applause for Jason Sterner.
235から191で EJ タケットが優勝決定戦へ進みます。対決としましたジェイソン・スターナー選手、今一度大きな拍手をお送りください。
Coming up next, our championship match. The number 1 seed, Shota Kawazoe versus EJ Tackett.
All right, we've seen it plenty of times before with a player running the ladder who had the momentum advantage easily in TJ's hand, but the other factor is the home field advantage for Kawazoe.
I gotta like EJ's chances. You know, anytime you bowled more than 1 game going into that title match, it's that momentum. You see the lane the right way. You're comfortable. And then the guy that's coming in that top seed, he's coming in a little bit cold, doesn't have that picture. And so if he doesn't make the proper moves right away out of the gate, he's automatically at a disadvantage.
So Kawazoe looking for his first PBA Tour title. That would get him an invitation to the Fire Lake PBA Tournament of Champions next month in Shawnee, Oklahoma. EJ Tackett looking for tour title number 6 overall.
Interesting. Did you see that first practice ball going Brooklyn? And he's looking at the lane like, what was that?
And it's going to be interesting to see how he changes here for the second shot. And just a reminder to all the PBA players that are eligible for that Tournament of Champions, your deadline to enter is today.
I guess I better email Mary.
Or you can talk to her in the tournament office before you leave. Let's see what Shota does here on the second practice ball. There he's flush in the pocket. And something tells me the crowd has been somewhat reserved going into through the first 3 games, and some of the reservation is going to come off when Shota Kawazoe throws his first ball of this match.
Absolutely. And the Japanese, they love bowling. It is such a pleasure to come over here and to see them every year. This building was full all week of fans, and the excitement they had just to be able to have an opportunity to watch us.
Well, and you're over here a couple times a year as well doing clinics and that type of thing as well, aren't you?
Off and on, yes. And it's always a pleasure. This is my favorite country to come to. Like I said, they love bowling. I remember being on the bullet train one time coming down here to Osaka from Tokyo, and it seemed like every other street you saw a bowling pin. And the cool thing about Japan is you never know which floor the bowling center's on. I've been to some centers where you have to walk through the supermarket to get to the elevator to take it up to the 5th floor where the bowling center is. And then I've had other times where we bowled a Pro-Am on a 4-level center. There's 13 lanes on 4 floors.
Wow.
Yeah, 13. It would kind of odd,
Yes.
right? But they put in as many lanes as they could in the size of the building. And you had to bowl 1 game of the Pro-Am on each floor. So thankfully we had helpers to help us with our bowling balls up and down the stairs.
It'd be funny if you had to bowl on 13 and 14 and had to bowl 13 and then go up the stairs and bowl on 14 for your second frame.
Right.
That'd be a heck of a workout. You're on 13 and 14 this week.
Maybe I'm going to make that part of my workout routine. What do you think?
Bowling ball on stairs? I used to do it when I coached collegiately with UW Whitewater. If the guys missed too many single pins in practice, I used to make them carry their bowling balls up 5 flights of stairs and then back down.
I'm glad I didn't bowl for you.
Yeah, they started whining about it, and I'm like, I'm an old man and I can do it, and I did it. So then there were no complaints after that, and there were a lot fewer single pins missed. So Kawazoe should get a little more practice here.
Bowling for the University of Kansas, we had spare ball Tuesday. That's all you were allowed was your spare ball on Tuesdays, and you had to shoot spares the whole time. And boy, if we didn't get 90% or better on our single pins during a college tournament, oh boy. Coach wasn't happy. But spares are the most important thing in this game and the most overlooked thing. Absolutely mandatory.
Give everybody who might not be familiar with Shota Kawazoe a little background information on him. 28 years old. He's been a PBA member for just about 6 years. He was Japan PBA Rookie of the Year in 2010. 13 career Japan PBA Tour titles. His highest finished on the American Tour. 5th last year here. I believe we saw him. Did we see him last year at the Masters? Was he there in Indianapolis? I thought I saw Shota there. I may be mistaken, but I know there were a couple of players from Japan in the Masters.
Yeah, he might have been there.
Yeah. He has 11 perfect games, including 2 consecutive on TV in the 2011 ABS Japan Open. Has that ever been done anywhere in the world, 2 consecutive 300s on television? I don't think so.
It's pretty impressive.
That is one heck of a stat. So we know Kawazoe is the man to beat right now, like qualifying by over 400 pins. And we will get started with this match momentarily. Phil Bridle, Randall Page here with you from Bentencho Grandbowl in Osaka.
Shota Kawazoe, the number 1 seed, has elected to let EJ Tackett begin the match.
トップシードの川添翔太選手が後攻ということになりましたので EJ タケット先行のスタートとなります。それではただいまより DHC カップ PBA Japan Invitational 2017優勝決定戦をスタートいたします。
Our championship match here from Bentencho Grandbowl in Osaka, Japan, 2017 DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Shota Kawazoe has allowed EJ Tackett to start the match on that left lane. Another player letting EJ Tackett finish on the right lane. That's surprising.
Shocking to me, really. You see EJ balking there. He doesn't balk very often at all, but somebody coughed in the stands.
And I believe EJ's still using the piece that's got him this far. He did throw a different ball in the 10th frame, experiment a little bit when he had that match well in hand against Jason Sterner.
Phil, actually, I think that is his ball change.
Okay. Oh yeah, I do see a tinge of green to that ball, yes.
Boy, that ball ripped really hard in the lane.
Oh. His last 2 matches, he started with a spare in the first frame. Maybe he's just feeling lucky and just it's been working for him. I highly doubt that. But EJ's run the table so far. His last match over Jason Sterner. 235 to 191. And the man everyone is here to see up on lane 26.
Good start to the match there. Saw he was struggling a little bit on his warm-up shots. Well, you can see he moved a little bit further left. The ball got through the mid lane perfectly. And going with the strong ball too. I talked to Del Ballard before the match, and he was kind of back and forth between that phase 2 and an IQ tour. So moving left, going with the strong ball, I think that's a good play.
And you know he's got to be feeling a little extra pressure being on the home field right now. Oh, and the wrap 10. And that's been a nemesis for everyone on that left lane.
Again, I'm super surprised that he's elected to finish on that lane.
Well, got to keep the composure, keep things going. Kawazoe averaged over 246 this week. 8 pins a game ahead of the rest of the field. The next closest in average, EJ Tackett.
And only losing 8 matches out of 32. That's pretty impressive. Especially with this field.
Yeah, when you have the highest average and the best match play record, It's easy to see why he gapped himself by 401 pins over Jason Sterner. This is where Tackett's been comfortable, on that right lane.
I think for EJ, as long as he's going to stick with this ball, remember, make your misses right. Don't miss him. And you saw what happens when you miss a little bit to the left on that left lane. He's got the rev rate and power to get it back from just about anywhere.
Tackett making sure those heels of his bowling shoes are debris free. Sometimes you hear a little bit of a squeak when EJ gets to the line. And that 8 went a little late. I'd be a little scared about that ball reaction.
Yeah, a little bit. It looks like that. You can see the 1-3, how it's a little bit tighter there. That might be what's causing these ring 10s a lot. I know EJ doesn't like to pay attention to the rack or take re-racks often, but heck, if I had 600 RPMs, I guess I'd look at the racks a lot less too.
I have 600, but that's between 3 shots for me. So
about 2.5 for me, so I understand.
Okay. So both bowlers clean to open the match, no doubles. Kawazoe working on a spare. Strike here keeps the match even. Need some help.
You can see from that angle there, he's got such a heavy ball roll, and that was a key to his success this week. You know, not as much axis rotation, but a real heavy ball roll so that he could play a little further in than most of the guys could and still get his ball to read that mid lane properly.
And that's something you see with the angles getting a little extreme sometimes. You see the 5 blow right between the 4 and the 8 and nothing gets near them.
Absolutely.
That's the power player's 8 count right there. Sometimes players have the fast 8 when they're a little high flush in the pocket. You see a lot of power players with that light 8.
Interesting hooking at this. Personally, I like to take chop out of play. So when I leave the 6-9, I'm actually going to slide in the right gutter almost, just to keep that angle down as much as possible. So I take that chop out.
We possibly getting a ball, or he's just talking to Del Ballard. Okay. So something about that particular ball reaction he didn't like. And quick chat with Del. And back out to the lanes. 2 pins is deficit. Kawazoe. There's an extra hush in the crowd right now. These Japanese fans.
Great shot there.
There's a gentleman in the crowd here at Bentencho Grandbowl all week long. He's been cheering people on, and when the ball starts to get near the break point, he hollers, "Kip." But nobody has any idea what he means by the kip.
I think translation might be hit.
Hit. Go.
Or
Okay.
go. Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's gone and went for EJ. That's 10 back in a hurry. Keeps his lead at 2 pins. But now the riddle to solve once again for EJ. Lane 25. Does it just move left and grip it up and rip it up a little bit more?
Interesting. It looks like he's going back to the ball he used the first 3 matches.
Oh, net 5 bounced left, then right, and then down. I don't think he's happy all 10 fall. I don't think he's just happy with the way how they fell.
Phil, he must have heard you talking about that 8-pin barely getting out there and going back to a little bit of a weaker ball, closing down his angles a little more.
Makes him dance. Big double on the board and a big 12-pin lead, but Kawazoe can knock that back down to 2 if he puts up a double of his own here in frame 5. And that's where, when the angles got steep this week, that's the trouble that came into play.
And I think we're seeing why he chose to finish on the left lane as well. Didn't look like too bad of a shot there, but.
Well, the 5 acted weird last time on that lane. He blew it between the 4 and the 8. That time, 4 and the 8 gone and out of the way.
I was just about to say, this is makeable in this building.
Now watch once again. Watch the replay here. Thanks to our friends at Japan Bowling Promotion. 5-pin just in front and does nothing. And now you go from a 12-pin deficit to a 34-pin deficit in one shot.
Key here, just to regroup. Forget about that shot. We'll figure out that lane when I'm done with this frame.
Then you just have to do that with the hottest bowler in the world. Pulling the match against you. Gets the 10 to go that time. It seems like he's a little more closed on that left lane with the angles.
Maybe a little bit, but you know, again, it's hard to tell because he's creating so much more angle than anybody in the field did all week long.
Tackett on a double, 6th frame.
Nice shot.
We saw it in the opening match against Barnes. Barnes left him in opening. EJ just stomped on it, kept going. Sean Rash had a couple of bad breaks. EJ kept striking through him.
Phil, not very often you see somebody out hooking EJ.
That's a good point.
Isn't that interesting?
That's a very good point. But sometimes, well, a lot of times in this game, more hook doesn't mean more pins down.
That's exactly right.
Tackett looking for 4 in a row in the 7th. The high hard one.
You can see he's feeling it right now. Putting all that pressure on him.
54 pin lead. And mandatory strike mode now in effect for Kawazoe. Kawazoe's maximum 236.
This really is the key shot in the match right here.
EJ can go spare, strike spare, and be in the 230s.
Key shot in the match is tough lane. Make one good shot, make a good move. Throw it right back at EJ. Say, nope, not yet.
Oh my. The 4th one today we've seen on that lane.
Oh, what a horrendous break. At the worst time.
That just takes a bit of your soul and throws it in the gutter. And they've all looked exactly the same. The only one that got lucky enough to take one out was EJ Tackett, but he did that on the left lane.
Right. And again, that's why I said it was rack earlier, because the role of the 5-pin is to take that 8-pin out. And sometimes if it gets a little bit off spot, even though it looks like a perfect shot, that 5-pin will drive right past the 8-pin.
Now Kawazoe's maximum 216, and Tackett just keep filling frames. It's EJ's job now, and he's going to take home the first PBA Tour title of 2017 here at the DHC PBA Japan Invitational. Late fall to 10, but it does go.
Boy, what a different match this would be if that 8-pin would have fallen. Two really good shots there.
I mean, that right lane for Kawazoe, this pocket 7-10 followed by the pocket 8-pin.
Well, we said it at the beginning of the broadcast. It was going to come down to carry. This has been a high-scoring pattern all week. Oh, wow.
He didn't. His timing looked a little weird there. Like he started getting the feet going and the ball didn't get into the swing.
Maybe he pulled a me. I had one of my first balks ever this week because I almost tripped over my feet. I was like, dang airplane rides. My legs felt like jello.
Well, this will definitely make the plane ride back to Indiana a bit easier to take. And this one is almost officially in the bag.
That's pretty much the ball game right there.
Here's a question for you. Player of the Year voting for 2016 opened up yesterday, I believe, for the players. Your Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and EJ Tackett, 4 titles. What a major. How hard could it be for maybe some of the people when they see that EJ Tackett won this first one in 2017, you kind of put that out of their mind and just go, hey, it's only 2016 that we can count.
Right.
It could make voting a little. Could it make the voting a little bit, affected?
I know for myself it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think EJ's just put up the strongest case as far as I should be Player of the Year in my brain. Does this solidify it? Yeah, it's easy to look at it that way, but no, it is 2017 again. And I think part of the role of our responsibility is to put this out. Say, nope, this is a different year.
Yeah. In 2015 when EJ Tackett won his first title in Lubbock, Texas, and everybody said, well, EJ finally learned how to win, and now EJ Tackett's becoming the PBA Tour other players' worst nightmare, because now he's got 5 titles in the last 13 months.
It's incredible.
Including one with you in Las Vegas as your teammate.
That's right.
With America Rooster Illusion.
Rooster Illusion.
I still love what you guys did in the paddock at World Series of Bowling. I took pictures. I haven't never posted them on the internet, but it was awesome.
That was really cool.
It was really good.
I know the night before I went to the World Series, they sent me a picture of it, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. So much fun to bowl with those guys.
And now the good break comes after the bad breaks take him out of the match.
Go figure. That's like struggling on one lane the entire match, but striking on the fill ball. I always say the fill ball's a lock. Go figure.
Well, it is verified on Xtra Frame. Fill balls are a 92.2 carry percentage on Xtra Frame pairs. Yes, we've had that verified by Ernst & Young more than once. But what a showing this week by Kawazoe. I mean, this is the first time I got to see him bowl in person, and he is for real. If he ever decided to take a few days and spend a couple of tour events in the States, he'll give everybody a run for the money.
Absolutely. It's been awesome to watch him progress as a player. I've known Shota for quite a few years now, and he's just gotten sharper and sharper, and he's a very, very hard worker. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him bowl more in the States.
Yeah, he's only 28, so lots of years of his bowling career ahead of him. But 5th place last year in the DHC PBA Japan Invitational, and now a 2nd place finish for Shota Kawazoe. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't remembered that name yet, it's a good idea to do so, because you're going to see more of that young man, I think, as the years progress. Here it is, $43,500 going back to Huntington, Indiana, with EJ Tackett, along with his 6th career PBA Tour title. And boy, he was in danger of falling out of the top 5 yesterday.
Right.
In the position round, gutted it out, held on as Chris Barnes passed him, but he stayed just ahead of Jesper Svensson by 10 pins. And now he runs the ladder and takes this PBA DHC Japan Invitational title. Well, everybody, good luck against EJ and all the 3 majors coming up in February.
Thanks, Phil. I'm going to need it.
I think everybody's going to need it. He's the hottest man on the planet in the bowling world right now.
Absolutely.
Your champion, EJ Tackett.
EJ Tackett defeats Shota Kawazoe 259-260. Please, one more round of applause for Shota Kawazoe.
DHC PBA Japan Invitational 2017優勝決定戦 EJ タケット対川添翔から259対216で EJ タケットが見事優勝を飾りました。大健闘しました川添翔選手に今一度拍手をお送りください。
And there you see our champion, EJ Tackett, with the Japan Invitational Award, and he'll be getting that check for $43,500 very shortly from the members of the Japan Bowling Promotions Association. Rhino Page, thanks again for sitting in the booth with us today, giving us your great insight, and I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
Thank you, Phil. Absolutely.
There is your champion, EJ Tackett. We're going to turn things over to Japan Bowling Promotion for the rest of the way. For Rhino Page, I'm Phil Brylow. Parents, take the kids bowling. We will have fun for life, and we'll see you in February from Wayne Webb's Columbus Bowl for the Barbasol PBA Players Championship.